of the International Textile Alliance, which is the organization that produces interwoven. The International Textile Alliance also has a committee. It's been probably a couple of years focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we've been really trying to find ways to just increase the diversity in this industry, which is not always necessarily known for its diversity. And so in discussions with the committee, we thought this was a good opportunity during the show to allow some of the members of our community to tell their stories, just as a way to kind of make it more relatable for the industry and hopefully encourage other people to incorporate diversity, equity, and inclusion into their businesses. And so that is why we are here today. I am very excited to welcome Tanya S. Lewis, that she has agreed to be our moderator for the discussion. Tanya is the co-founder and interior designer with Austin Gray Design Group. She is known for her eclectic style and innovative design solutions. Tanya S. Lewis joined forces with Denise Gordon in forming Austin Gray Design Group in 2017. With an inspiring portfolio of residential design and decorating projects, turnkey vacation rental properties, and tabletop event styling, this fearless Black interior designer draws upon her 30-plus-year career in program development and project management as she oversees the firm's construction, renovation, and design projects. A passionate believer in the transformative power of community and the nurturing role physical spaces play in empowering their inhabitants, Tanya possesses a bachelor's degree from Cornell University in design and facility planning, a graduate degree in public policy on race, poverty, and class issues from New York University, and master trainer in restorative practices. As an independent consultant since 2010, Tanya uses her expertise to assist schools and nonprofits across the country. A modern, multi-hyphenate businesswoman, Tanya has a full philanthropic life as a member of several boards and committees that focus on equity and inclusion. Tanya is the proud mother of an equally fearless adult daughter and an attentive daughter to her aging yet very active parents. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Tanya and let her introduce the rest of the panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much, Carrie, for inviting me. And thank you, Ellen Geffen, for making this happen. I really appreciate it. Before we get started, I just wanted to say that having the opportunity to moderate such an esteemed panel on a subject matter that is so important to me is really, it's a bit life-altering for me. I have two different lives, as you heard in my bio. An interior design life, which is full and fun. And I have another life where I'm a consultant and I work on DEI and restorative practices, which is full and maybe sometimes not so fun. But to now bring them together in this particular way has been something that I've always wanted, and I feel very fortunate to have the opportunity to do. So without further ado, I'd like for each of our panelists to just briefly share who you are, how long you've been in this industry, and then we're going to go on and talk a little bit about your experiences and how diversity and inclusion has impacted, or the lack of, has impacted your careers. So we'll start with you, just who you are, how long you've been in the industry, and then we're passing it on. Okay. And by the way, we have a chatty group. I was told we have an hour, so there might be some times when I'm like, well, but we have a chatty group here. Okay, so let's start with Teo.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this group of people here. Sincerely, I appreciate the fact that you all thought of me to be part of this group. Okay, I really do appreciate it, and thank you very much. Okay, my name is Tayo Onodeng. Okay, some people know me as Solomon. Okay, well, Solomon, I only use that to go to college. Okay, but my professor said, forget that Solomon, use your middle name, Tayo. So Tayo has been stuck with me ever since. Okay, I went to school here in Philadelphia College of Textile. That's where I had my training. And then I got into the industry in America here in 1987, I believe.
Okay, so Tayo,
Okay.
how long does that mean you've been here?
Oh, how long?
Well, no, let's start from when you first started in Africa. How long have you been in this?
Oh, you want me to add Africa to it? Okay.
This number. I just
Okay.
want to know.
Okay. I went to college
Uh-huh.
in 1975.
Okay,
I studied fashion design. I graduated in 77. Okay. So that was my first foray into textile,
so
basically.
77.
77.
And then when did you
Then
come
I
here
came to the United States in 1981 to
Okay.
attend college in Philadelphia College of Textiles, and I graduated in 85.
Okay,
Okay.
all right,
So,
we'll come back to here.
all right.
Hello, I'm Anicia Durka. I work for P. Kaufman. I'm currently the design director of Woven Product. I've been in the industry for 20 years, I'll say. And after a long road of trying many things, I discovered this wonderful accelerated program at FIT, and that's where I finished my textile training. That's it.
Wesley Mancini. I've been in the business 44 years. I'll pass it on.
That's it. My name is Martine Allen. I'm a textile designer. I founded a textile design studio called Studio Jano, and I specialize in print and woven design. I also have the privilege of working as a part-time adjunct at FIT, where I get to shape young textile minds.
Fantastic. I'm David Santiago, founder of Casa Santi Interior Design, and I'm going to say this out loud. I've been in the industry now for 30 plus years and walking and living strong and proud to be here. And my first ventures with diversity started at the New York School of Interior Design, then with Design on High Point, and eventually leading me to the Kaleidoscope Project, which has been a wonderful endeavor and a life-changing opportunity that brings me to speak on diversity, bigger and broader, and on different platforms, and I'm blessed to be here.
Thank you. Okay, so as you can tell, Tayo has a story. So that's where we're going to start. We're going to start with his story. As you can tell, he loves color. If you've seen his work, it's spectacular. But it took you quite a bit of tries to get into the industry. And there were a lot of roadblocks. You don't have to share all the roadblocks, but share one major roadblock that really stuck with you when you were trying to enter the industry.
Okay. You're right. My story is so big. Okay, it's so big. But I'm gonna kind of like give you snippets of it. Okay. When I left in school in 85 here, I thought, oh, I have arrived. I have all these degrees. I can just go in and get a job. I looked everywhere. I could not get an opportunity. 275 textile building in New York. I went from the ground floor of that building to the top of it, to every showroom with my portfolio in hand, looking for a job. No takers. I went from from Pennsylvania, all the way down to Massachusetts, to Worcester. No takers. And that was a day that I will never forget. At that time, I was driving a taxi in Philadelphia to make a living. I have to pay bills, right? I sat in my taxi and something pushed me to buy Philadelphia Inquirer newspaper. I bought that paper. In that paper, there was a blind advert. There was a blind advert for a job, a jacket analyst. I didn't know what a jacket analyst was, but I knew what jacket was. So I said, okay, let me just send in my resume. I did. 2 weeks later, I got a call. I got, answering machine, the tire. My name is so and so, come down to Orinoco Mills in Pennsylvania. Okay, I went to the place, Orinoco, met the guy with my portfolio. The guy just looked at me. He didn't look at the portfolio. I said, oh my God. I said, sir, I have all my fabrics in school here. Look at it. He won't look at it. He said, I've seen thousands of them. Then I looked on the wall of his office and I saw 4 drawings there, 4 things that I thought were pictures. I said, wow, those are beautiful photographs. He said, no, those are not photographs. Those are woven fabrics. And I've never seen woven fabrics that beautiful before in my entire life. I said, and I don't know why I said what I said. I said to him, can you teach me how to do these things? And he sat and he looked at me and he kept quiet for a while. He said, well, we can do that. I didn't know what he meant by that. And he said, I'll call you in 2 weeks. 2 weeks came, no call. And I said, oh my God. So I called him. He said, oh, I'm so sorry. Can you come next week? I need to talk to you some more. I got there. And when I got there, the man said to me, how much salary do you want? I froze. I didn't know what to say. And I said to him, sir, just give me money for food. Give me money for my apartment and medical, and don't pay me. That's enough. He said, no, we don't do that in America. He said, we have to pay you for your service. And he said, okay, tell me how much you want. I didn't tell him. And he said, okay, let me make it easy. Take it, what about from 15,000 to 18,000? And I was scared because that was a lot of money for me coming from Africa, okay? And I said to the man, I said, okay, give me 15. He said, okay, I'll send you a letter of, like job, whatever. 2 weeks came, send me a letter, he put $18,000 on that thing. I thought I died, I went to heaven. 18,000. The day I started, he said, Saul, it calls me Solomon, I'll give you 18,500. That was the opportunity of a lifetime. Without that man, I would not be here talking to you all. I know with a degree of certainty that one door that was opened the door for Craftex, okay, for Quaker, which I will say is Whitaker. I started Whitaker with my wife, okay? That opened the door for Cobb. That opened the door for Burlington Industries at the executive level. All those companies, right? I never applied for a job. That's my story. That's my story in a nutshell.
You did a good job. So I think the thing that I went away with the first time I heard your story was the amount of prejudice you experienced when you were so qualified and no one would even give you a chance. And then you juxtapose that to somebody who decided, you know what, I am going to give you a chance because clearly you're eager to learn. But let's be real, that diversity hire made them a lot of money because you're good, right? And so they wouldn't have gotten your talent. And think of all the other companies who missed out on that talent because of their own prejudices. And that's what I walked away from that story. And so I wonder, and Anisia, I'm going to hand it over to you. Do you have either a major moment or an ally that helped you to become what you are, which is, you know, a Black woman in a not so Black firm with a very senior position. And so they too are benefiting from all of your talent. Who or what made that happen?
You're a really tough act to follow, but I was trying to make this interesting. You know, there have been little glimpses and certain people from time to time that I've been lucky enough to work for. I'd say my first job out of school, my first job in a real job in textiles. I worked for a company called Tex, and I feel like that team really exemplified equity. And that was my first job out of school. So I feel like I was very spoiled. And it was before anyone was talking about equity and diversity and inclusion. And then, you know, every once in a while I've worked for a lot of different places. You know, it's been really hard. One of the people I actually reported to at one point is Mark Denecor, who was, I would say, an ally and an advocate who just happens to be here. I didn't know you were going to be at this show, but I reported to him when I worked for Robert Allen, and it was a really great opportunity to just shine. And I feel like, you know, the times where people have been an ally and spoken up for me or just asked my opinion in a room, or what do you think about this? I've had the opportunities to shine. And then another example would be when I got this promotion 5 years ago. I feel like it was the first time, you know, I always kind of wanted to be in a leadership role. I never really wanted to say it out loud, but I knew I wanted it. And I've been given the opportunity to shine and to bring my designs forward and to be seen as a designer. And it's, you know, to be real, it's if you make the money and if your designs sell. But that has been the emphasis and that has been the focus. And it's been a real blessing. So I think it took finding the right company and a few people that really advocated for me to get that promotion. So I'm grateful for that. Yeah. Yeah.
So you said the first place that you worked for was a model of what it should look like. What about it made it that?
Honestly, most of the people I worked with were women. So, and it was a very I'm just being honest, it was a very supportive team. And we all looked out for each other. And I was the most junior. And everyone there took me under their wing. They taught me jacquards. I thought I was going to go into fashion, textiles, and printing. And they were so eager to share their knowledge and mentor me and give me opportunities whenever something was available, that it was really meaningful.
So the commonality between the two of you really is about someone who's willing to take a chance and mentoring, someone who's invested in your growth. And that is definitely something that allows for you to feel safe in. When you're learning, you have to make mistakes. But when you're in an environment where you're afraid to make mistakes, you don't take the extra step to try things, to push boundaries, to be creative. So on a business level, it sounds as though they benefit from giving you the freedom to make a mistake because they end up getting something even bigger and better than they would if you played it safe. So that's a business argument for mentoring, for diversity, for opening up doors for people that look and sound a little different than you. So Wesley, my question for you right now is your story again, get ready, but your story also talks about the idea of there being what some people might consider microaggressions, some people might consider just aggression, and people not being aware of how their behavior impacts others that don't live and think the way that they do. So you can share as little or as much as you'd like, but I'd love for you to tell your story of your experiences, if you don't mind.
I'm just going to start right away with when I was 6, I was caught jump roping with the girls. So the nuns dressed me in a girl's uniform and dragged me from classroom to classroom while I was hysterically crying. So then is when I kind of started realizing that whoever I was, keep it to myself. So I kind of became quiet. So that's who I am. I'm kind of a quiet person, those who know me. So as far as a microaggression thing, I can recall a mill trip working with 3 other men, and we were at the mill and we spent the night there, and they had picked up a prostitute, and in the room they were in the, well, actually it was a trailer. They passed her around and then they banged on my door that it was my turn. And I just, didn't answer the door, of course. They kept bouncing and pounding. So I think that's microaggression. Also recently I just had lunch with a businessman who just couldn't stop oogling over the waitress. It was like, I'd like to do that. I'd like to do that. So many times men, well, that I've been with, unfortunately, talk about like that. And it's like, it's vulgar, number one. But if I ever said something in reverse, like what I would like to do to that guy, it would be like so upsetting to that man. But and also the thing that was really upsetting was I knew the wives of these men and they were friends. Now I just like didn't know how to get through all of that. So how's that?
I mean, unfortunately, does anyone else have any other microaggressions? I'm sorry, I just want to make sure everybody hears. Does anyone else on the panel have experiences of microaggressions that they might want to share, of times when people make assumptions about you based on who you are, or they say things not realizing that it's offensive?
I've had a few examples, and I think what it is, or at the time it was people trying to connect with me, which is almost more upsetting, but I can think of one instance where I got out of a meeting and I had been, I wouldn't even say assertive, but I, shared my thoughts, my point of view around the design, and I kind of stood up for what I wanted. And another person at our, not my current company, said, "Oh, you were really giving it to him. Did you get ghetto on him?" And I was so taken back, and they just kind of smiled and laughed. And I think it was a point of trying to connect. I wish I had had the comeback at the time, but I think I was just so taken aback. I've had people email back to me, I'll say something on an email where, again, just being professional, just stating my opinion. People saying things like, just implying that I'm the angry Black woman, that I'm aggressive, that I'm mean. That happens more times than I think people realize. So,
Anyone else? Okay.
This is actually with a wife of someone who I complimented how pretty her dress was, and her immediate response was, "Oh, do you want to borrow it?" And I just thought that was so offensive. Like, "Oh, you think I wear women's clothing?" It was just.
yeah. We could be here for hours.
Well, yeah. So, it's interesting when I heard Anicia say the angry Black woman thing. I've had experiences of trying to enlighten people of, well, if you want to talk to me, this is how I respond to things based on just how I was raised. And I would prefer if you did X, Y, and Z. But because I said it in a way that wasn't soft enough, it was received like I'm angry, but I'm not angry, I'm passionate, and if you were to tell me that something upset you, my assumption is that you're upset as you're telling me. So I have to receive it that way. But oftentimes, when we're trying to help others to figure out how to do it better, because that's part of our job, right, is to tell people how to do it better. That if you don't know, the only way you will know is if we help you to learn it, but you also have to be ready to receive it. So that's the one point that I didn't put on my question list, but it came up when you just said that. I was like, yeah, we have to also, it's a give and take. And yes, you want there to be diversity in your and your staff in your company, that requires bringing people like us, but it also requires receiving us and making it a welcoming space and a safe space for everyone. And so I'm saying that as this sort of pitch to you, Martine, because you work at FIT. Now, if there's never been a more diverse place in the world, I can't imagine, because FIT has everything and everyone working together around the love of creativity and arts. So could you tell us a little bit about the diversity trainings and things that they have there so that people can receive differences?
So part of the onboarding process at FIT for all of the faculty and staff is to participate in workshops and seminars that focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that kind of soup to nuts covers everything from sexual harassment to cultural competencies to implicit bias to radical empathy. And it really is such an engaging, beneficial seminar because it gives an opportunity for you to converse with your peers in a space that is really built to teach, to educate, to support, to create a safe environment, not just for the people participating in the seminar, but also to create safe environments for the students, for the student body. I think the largest takeaways for me participating in those seminars were bringing my personal perspective or reflecting on my personal experience in the industry and what is my experience with diversity and equity and inclusion. And it's very specific to me and where I grew up and my experiences. But the trainings really showcased, there's so many different sides and facets to this that, transcend beyond just my perspective and my experience. It really opens up, a perspective and insight into other experiences. And it makes you feel more empathetic because you're connecting the stories to people. And that's also what we're trying to do here. You can kind of say these hot buzzwords and not really connect to them and know what they mean, but there are people behind what the buzzwords are. And that's a way to, feel motivated and connected to really pursue diversity. So yeah, that's what I would say about that. The question is there any pre-work that you need to do to participate in a seminar? I think self-reflection is great. I think thinking about what your personal experiences are, maybe what your biases are, thinking back on different work experiences, what has your exposure been to different types of people. I also think, like I was naming all of those, cultural competency, radical empathy, all of those things. Like if you're confused about what those things are, there's a wealth of information out there. It's Googleable. You can spend a little bit of time and get a glimpse and insight into what those things are and what they mean, because they can be just sort of abstract ideas that sound really cool, but they mean things, but they're difficult to pinpoint and nail down. I think also just having conversations, not being afraid to have conversations with people and ask questions about people's different experiences. That doesn't necessarily have to be related to the seminar, but keeping an open mind, I think, that's part of it too. Not being scared. Oh boy, how do you prepare to not be scared? I think that maybe coming from the place of empathy, like if you, generally, I hope people want to care about other people. And I think if you keep that in mind, that this is a position of wanting to care about people and make safe spaces and embrace different types of people, maybe you can channel that fear into empathy, take the negative and transform it to something positive.
So Mr. Santiago. So David, I've heard you say on a couple of occasions that you would like diversity to focus on a broader scale. And so if you could just take some time to explain what you mean by that and how any industry, and this industry in particular, benefits from broadening it.
I've been in this industry a long time, and I'm going to start from a cultural point of view because it's probably the most recent platform that I've had to discuss it. And to celebrate my cultural heritage and be able to sit here with all of you and share our stories and our journeys, I think are viable information for all of us in this audience. I never looked at my heritage having a voice or needing a voice through my design career, but our design industry changed. The faces of our industry started changing, and projects, initiatives, organizations started looking at the industry and evaluating what we're doing, how are we doing it, what we're not doing, and what equation are we missing. So I started celebrating looking at my Spanish heritage, my indigenous roots, getting involved with a project like the Kaleidoscope Project, looking at my journey through where I got started and who were my mentors. And I refer a lot, and for those of you that know me, to my design women and the golden girls of my industry. But make no mistake, my early journey into this industry was mentored by the fabulousness of these mentors, my design women and golden girls of the industry through the fabric and fabric world and interior design world. And as I've evolved as a designer, looking at this industry and reflecting and looking how fast paced it is and how young designers are coming into our industry and how I still pride myself in learning at this stage in my career, 30 years plus. I never know enough. I stay hungry and I look to the faces and the people that I believe are viable foundations to our industry, and we all have something to learn from as well. So when I think of diversity, I think of the cultural aspect of diversity. I think of ageism as diversity. And I also look at diversity from different points of views and different perspectives of people's stories and journeys, to keep that open mind. Not to say that one supersedes the other, but I try to keep a broad sense of diversity, and it also has to do with the way that I was raised and the way I grew up. I grew up in a multicultural, diverse community in Teaneck, New Jersey, in Bergen County. And I grew up with the United Colors of Benetton, which was my everyday life. And it was woven into the fabric of my life. And that's what I know. So here we are in 2020, going to 2024, and we talk about diversity from such a different perspective, and also in a poignant and voices that need to be heard that haven't been heard in our industry. And I try to equate and balance that journey and that conversation from my own personal journey of where I've been through the home furnishings industry, design and music and the performing arts. And make no mistake, to your point, Wesley, and this industry has been wonderful, and it also has not been very kind. I have personal stories that I've been subject to through my journey that I've never really shared, that I've been subject to. And it's a wonderful thing to hear your stories today, to find myself revisiting some of those moments through my early years in this industry by assumptions, whether it's sexuality, whether it's cultural, whether it's identity, and all of that, whether you're gay, straight, and everything else in between. Make no mistake, it exists in our industry. the subtleties, the micros, all of those things, the nuances, the parties, the groping, all these things exist. And it is important, and I think this panel is wonderful, Tanya, and all of us, that we are talking about all these points of view, especially at this textile show and here at High Point. I'm going, this is such a wonderful conundrum, and I say that in a fabulous way, that here we are talking about and sharing all of our stories, because I think if we don't talk about this and we don't share our points of view and diversity, it will never change. It won't continue. And the conversation, to my point when I've tapped on this, is the conversations can't stay here. They have to carry on, and the voices have to resonance beyond these double doors and continue and grow and evolve and continue to share, because with that initiative, we may see change. We may see change, because some of the fundamentals of when I started in this industry are still here. They're still relevant. I'm sorry, they're not relevant. They're still, what's the word? Relevant. They're still prevalent. Thank you. Prevalent today. You know, some things just have not gone away. So kudos to this conversation, this panel. I feel honored and privileged to be here.
Thank you, David. So thank you all for sharing your stories. I want to start to ask some general questions. Anyone who wants to answer can answer. I'll just be, was it Donahue? I'll be Donahue. What are some of the small yet significant actions that design leaders can do to create an inclusive culture within their teams or organizations? And it can't be that we only hire women because they are naturally inclusive. There has to be actions. What kinds of small actions? I'm not asking for something sweeping, but what kind of small actions can we start to do so that the space does feel more inclusive? Anyone?
I mean, the thing that I keep thinking about is going back to that allyship, because the reality is a lot of the people that are on board with this initiative are in this room. So how do we take it outside of the room? And I think there's some really simple things we can do. It's like if you're in a meeting and you see someone that's completely being ignored, that maybe is underrepresented and doesn't have a voice. You know, I haven't heard from Tanya. Did you want to contribute to the conversation? Or, you know, Tanya, I know when we were speaking the other day, you had some really great suggestions. Do you mind if I open that up to everyone? Just giving people a voice that maybe don't feel like they're included, inviting those people into the meeting in the first place. Just being really honest with yourself. And we all have biases, and it's just a matter of, can we pause those for a minute? Am I constantly interviewing the same type of person? Am I constantly drawn to that same type of resume? Those are just a few examples I have.
The man that trained me, that gave me that opportunity, taught me more than textile, structure, fabric, and all this. What he taught me was that even though it was very good, the man is the best person I've ever known in my entire world as far as textile is concerned, okay? What he did that blew me away, even though he was teaching me, but he never imposed his thoughts on me. He would teach me things that is out of this world. And he'll say, what do you think, Saul? What are your thoughts? This man was as white can be in Pennsylvania. It was a military man, no nonsense man, but it gave me respect at every level, to the point where when people were trying to take me away from him, I refused to leave that company. They offered me a lot of money. I refused to leave the man. You know what the man did? When Craftex came knocking, because I didn't apply for that job at Craftex. When Craftex came and offered me a job, I told him, I said, Vince, Craftex offered me a job and I don't want to go. He said, Saul, take it, go. It's your time to shine. That was his word. I said, no, I wasn't going to go. He said, okay, let's do it like this. Craftex wanted me in 1962. Maybe we can go to Craftex as a team, right? So I talked to the people at Craftex. They were very excited. They said, oh, good, we'd like to have it as the plant manager. And you become the senior stylist at Craftex. They gave the two of us the job. Okay? The day we were supposed to start, I showed up. My boss never showed up. He never went. And everybody said, where is he? So I called him. And he said, Saul, enjoy your journey. Go ahead and be the best you can be. That's what the man said to me. Till he died, I never, ever not go to see him in Pennsylvania. Okay? That's all we need to do. We need to respect one another, help the younger generation, and support them, guide them, give them room to speak. Don't feel threatened because they may say something that is different than yours. All my years that I've been design director for all the companies in this country, all the big ones, I never, ever imposed myself on all the designers because of what that one man taught me. I never. We will sit down in the war room and every one of them, I will say, okay, what do you think? Give your thoughts. But I was never too proud not to accept their thoughts and their ideas if it makes sense as a group. That's all there is to it. That's how you grow a community. Not try to act like, okay, I'm the owner. I do the same thing now. I own Tire Originals. Even my team in China, I never impose myself on them. I give them the room. They call me master, don't call me master. Okay, we're partners. I'll talk to them. That's all we need. Okay, that's all we need.
Thank you. Anyone else have any other small actions one could take? Okay, so Wesley and then.
Okay, well, I had a studio of 30 and very multicultural. And the one thing that we did were potluck dinners. And through food, everyone would expose their cultures. And it just helped everyone blend together. Something as silly as food.
I think acknowledgement, to your point of, in a room like this, look at your peers, make eye contact, subtle gestures resonate large volumes and noise, and engage your circle, your network. Extend that olive branch. If you're seeking diversity in your company, don't just hire a Black person and say you're diverse. Don't just hire a Latino or an Asian and say we're diverse. Go farther than that. Get to know your employees. You don't have to go into a family tree, but if you understand who your employees are, you are better and bigger and broader. And I think it starts with those simple conversations, especially when you have companies wanting to connect with a diverse community. Some of them don't know how to do it. Some of them are afraid. Do I hire a Black person and I'm diverse? Do I hire a Latino and now I connect with the Latino community? Or do I hire an Asian and connect with the Asian community? I think it's bigger and broader. And I think there are steps to implementing those initiatives to be inclusive, to be, when I say broader in diversity, that's where I come from. I think there's a bigger picture, and it starts with one person, but it doesn't stay there. I think that conversation, that dialogue has to continue and grow in order for the company or the individual to grow. I know I've taken steps myself that way. Even as comfortable as I am, I'm still learning about diversity because I don't know it all. I don't know enough. I don't know all of our stories. And I love listening to all of you today talking because I'm growing. My sensibility of what I know as diversity is bigger and broader today because I'm here. And I think that's also a responsibility that I walk with. I keep my mind open, my eyes broader, my ears open so I can grow and be a better human.
So David, actually what you said brings me to my next question, which is, and you might have touched on it, but hopefully others can add to that. When you have a homogeneous population, so if you're the majority, the overwhelming majority of your company is X, whatever that may be, and you're bringing in people who think differently, look differently, live a different life, what can the company do to change the culture so that you're not just hiring diverse folks, but you're creating an environment that supports diversity? Because if you think about it, I could hire 20 Black folks to be in a place that is all white men and has been all white men for 50 years and behaves however white men behave. And I don't know how they behave, but just however you behave. And you bring the 50 people there, but if you're not changing your behavior, do those 50 people feel comfortable there? Probably not. Or they have to code switch. Does everybody know what code switching is? No? Okay, code switching is when you learn to live a life that is appropriate for another space versus being your authentic self. So you have to switch. You have to, I'm Tanya here, but when I go into that room, I have to be Tanya the professional or Tanya the whomever instead of I'm just Tanya. Because you're not accepted being who you are in that space. So there is an obligation when you do diversity hires to create an environment that supports that. Does anyone have any, either the experiences where they've seen that happen or recommendations of what can happen? Because the reality is these young people are coming. And I used to consider myself young, but my daughter, she's 26 and she will tell me I'm not. These young people are coming and they have not just expectations, but demands that we now figure out how to support them. Otherwise, there'll be a lot to pay. Yes?
Okay. I'm going to only tell you about my experience, not in the fabric side, but on the furniture side, okay? On the furniture side, I've been so blessed that the people that we do business with now, they don't see me as an African. They don't see me as a Black person. Seriously, they don't. They see me as somebody that has something to offer that can benefit them. And that's how they deal with me. Okay? Let me give you just few examples. I have many, but let me give you a few. One. Oh my God. Oh, okay. Let me give you two. Two. Oh my God. Okay. I'm going to try. One is Marty Silver. Marty didn't have to buy from me. He didn't have to do business with me. I met him the first time in 1997. Do you know, this man introduced me to the chairman of Burlington, what do you call it? Lazy Boy. Yeah, Burlington, of Lazy Boy. That man then questioned Doug White. Why are we not doing business with Ty? all because of Marty said this. Guess what? That market, we have 60% of lazy boy flow, okay? And up to today, we get container load of orders from this same man. I don't owe him anything. It calls me 3, 4, 5 times a day about products. That's the man that doesn't see color. He never talked to me with disrespect. He never treat me like I'm nobody. Okay? That is the benefit of when you have an open mind, okay, to deal with people. When you give them a chance, okay? Christina, a decorist, is exactly the same. Okay?
All right, Tyro. Trying to be slick. Okay. So does anyone else have some recommendations on how you change a culture to be open to someone or groups of people that are very different than the existing culture there? Because that's the only way diversity is going to work. You can't just hire people. You got to create something where they accept it.
I think when we use the term diversity, equity, and inclusion, we have to look at the equity piece of it, because, you know, our company, my whole career has been based in New York City. So every company I've worked for is very, very diverse just by the location and the locale. But when you look at our diversity, is everyone that's Black and brown in the mailroom, or are they in a leadership position? You know, those are the kinds of things you can look at and ask people, give opportunities to, you know, because some of us work in very diverse environments, but I think it's important to look at how we can be more equitable and give people opportunities and how we can include people. No pressure.
I think going back to what I was saying earlier about having conversations and reaching out to people to connect with people, I think maybe there's an aspect of checking in with those new hires, those hires that are diverse, to see, you know, gauge the temperature of how they're doing and how they're feeling. I think if initially the environment is a safe environment where they have the freedom to share, you know, you can glean a lot of really good information that's actionable from checking in with somebody. And making them feel like they're heard, that they're not alone, you know, they can voice things that are happening and going on, having some kind of outlet without retaliation.
I think I love the word action. So I've and this is more recently than ever, and I've honed in on it, but I've tried to be diverse also in my design practices as well as my professional music. But really, we're here at Interwoven and High Point, so I want to speak to that. I've really also taken an initiative to look at businesses and resources that I utilize from a product point of view and a cultural point of view as well. So I can support a Black-owned business, a Latino-owned business, or Indian-owned businesses. You know, we're in the international mecca of home furnishings here at High Point. And when I walk through High Point, I try to support products. I try to support businesses and like-minded individuals that are being pro-future and pro-change and proactive in evolution, not only from design, but also from a relationship and network of industry, and trying to work with the ever-changing faces of our industry. So, you know, that's something that I've started looking at, and something that I never used to do until diversity. You know, and we're talking about this word, but it is become woven into almost our daily vocabulary. And what does it mean it means something to everyone in a different aspect of it. And there are different layers to that word. But I think action. I've taken accountability. I'm trying to hold myself accountable in what I can do and change when I negotiate my business relationships and even my personal relationships. So that's how I'm hoping to change and contribute to the ever-changing faces of our industry with a big smile.
Well, thank you. I'm going to open up the floor for anyone who has any questions. We have one mic, so you're going to have to either say it loud so I can repeat it, or I can do a Donahue moment. So anyone have any questions for our esteemed panel? Thank you. Thank you. Well, with that being said, I want to thank you all for participating. It's been an absolute pleasure meeting each and every one of you. And you're all going to be my new best friends, particularly you, Taya. And, you know, as an interior designer, we don't get to come to Interwoven. That's sort of like, you know, I feel very special because I was telling all my friends when I was at back in New York that I was coming here, and they're like, they let you come? So I do feel very special. And so thank you for allowing me to be a moderator here. People will be here if you want to ask any other questions, but I know you have a lot of supporters out here, and I hope you do get the word out so that this can be the beginning of longer and bigger and deeper conversations. Thank you.